Welcome back to the Roll-Up High Roller community. As always, nothing on the roll-up is to be construed as financial advice. We are just some educators in the DeFi space. Toss us a quick like, give us a share, a repost, send it to a friend who may want to watch this, and finally, give us a sub or a follow. It means the world to help support credibly neutral educational content in DeFi. We're here to educate, empower, and enrich you, and let's jump in.
The future is modular, the future is Appchain. The future is me getting liquidated on Aevo in hopes of being a good leverage trader and Julian taking all my shekels. The future is here, Julian. I'm just messing around. GM, sir, or GN to you. How are you, man?
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me. Nice to know that you're also one of the traders who got liquidated on Aevo, because that makes two of us.
Yeah, that makes three of us here and plenty of us watching. I must say that the experience was seamless and quite a nice UI, which I assume is even going to be taken to the next level. With this transition to kind of just full app chain using Celestia. I would love to hear kind of about the path that you guys have been on from kind of ribbon days into where you are now and why you believe the future is modular.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of brief history of Ribbon and Aevo. We started Aevo about 3.5 years ago, so it's been a really pretty long time in crypto time. I think our original idea was like there were all these, there's like sort of like this explosion of structured products and like crypto in Asia, and we were thinking about, okay, there were all these like Chinese brokers building these like structured products for Chinese billionaires. And we thought, okay, can we take those products and make it into this like DeFi native format? I think one very striking example was back then, you could only invest in these products if you had like 100 BTC. So it's really, really targeted at BTC miners, BTC whales. So we sort of converted that product into like a DeFi native format. It got really popular in 2021. I think when we launched in April, we started out with, 1 million of TVL. And over the next like 6 to 8 months, it ballooned all the way to like 400 mil of TVL. So, I mean, like huge growth and adoption in that product. But yeah, I mean, then obviously, the bear market hit. And, I think when market suddenly turns, everyone sort of pulls the capital from the riskiest and most like degen products, and they sort of want to move their money to what is like the safest, lowest APR like yield in DeFi, or even like exit crypto altogether, right? We saw a lot of people sort of withdraw their crypto into, their traditional savings accounts. So yeah, we saw a massive like compression in TVL and interest in this type of crypto structured products, and we started thinking about, okay, what is like we need like a strong second act. We can't just sit around and wait for like the next cycle for people to get risk on again. So I think the very natural extension was like, we have this product that generates like a ton of option volume, these vaults. And we thought, okay, what if we could actually build like an options exchange that's sort of attached to this product? So we're not just like this yield vault thing, but we're also like the exchange underneath as well. So that was like the core idea of Aevo. We started out building like a focus on trying to be like the best crypto options exchange. And I think the vision has just been growing since then. So we launched perps, which has been growing like crazy. We've launched some of these new instruments, which has become really popular. Yeah, that's sort of like where we are today. In terms of like why this is relevant to like your podcast, I think, we were one of the first teams to actually like adopt this app chain or roll app thesis. I think when we were thinking about, okay, which tech stack do we build Aevo on? Do we build it on Solana? Do we build it on another like fast layer 1 chain? Do we build our own chain? There's sort of many different considerations. And I think just at that point in time, this was, over a year ago, almost like a year and a half already. And the the OP stack was just like becoming a thing. Like no one had ever actually used that word like a year and a half ago. No one talked about the OP stack. But there were some of these like optimism forks. Like we saw a few of these layer 2s just like fork the optimism code base and just run with it. And I think, we felt like, okay, like this optimism tech stack is actually pretty mature. It's been forked many times in production. We know it's like something that's been pretty stable. And we thought, can we actually use like this tech stack to actually build what we want? And like the layer 2 thesis was just becoming a thing. Optimism, Arbitrum are growing like crazy. But we thought like we felt like we needed our own isolated execution environment because we were this like high performance, low downtime exchange. We couldn't have like, we didn't want to be built on a chain which had thousands of other apps on it, and that could create some sort of congestion and sort of competition for block space. So we wanted to be like our own little ecosystem. So that was like the genesis of the idea and why we chose this stack. And we were speaking to these like roll-up providers, which are also just like starting out. I think, Paradigm, who is one of our investors, they were also incubating this new like roll-up as a service company back then called Conduit. And, we were just chatting with them about like what we need. We didn't actually think like they were going to be ready by the time we were going to launch. But, we made it work. Like we were their first customers. I think they were awesome. We were really like their first production customers to launch like a mainnet roll-up. And we've been sort of running with that since. So, the most recent announcement was that we actually switched out like the DA layer from Ethereum mainnet to Celestia, which was also partly sort of done in conjunction with Conduit as well. So it's sort of like this tri-party contribution. It wasn't just us and Celestia.
Yeah, awesome. And that's gonna. I saw a chart of a different project that as soon as they integrated Celestia for DA, their sequencer profit was like this, and then as soon as they integrated, it started to actually go up. So I imagine for you guys something similar where you guys will save a ton on costs for data publishing.
Yeah, so that was actually like one of the main reasons why we did this. I think in our case specifically, we actually subsidize gas for like all our users because we want to create this like centralized exchange experience. Like let's say you wanted to do like a $10,000 trade. Maybe we didn't want users to have to think about, okay, do I do like $10,000 trades or will I save on gas if I just do one big trade? That like all these things actually make the user experience really bad. Like how many transactions am I actually going to send and so on. So, we decided let's just subsidize all gas. Users would basically feel like they're using a centralized exchange. They don't need to think about gas at all. That was sort of one of the core principles of building Aevo. And obviously like in Q4, our user counts started going like parabolic. Ethereum price started going up and like Ethereum gas started going up like all at the same time. So, what we were subsidizing, which was, pretty small at the start, it quickly became like in the 6 figures a month.
Wow.
That's sort of why we were like, oh shit, like this is actually getting really expensive. Can we actually like switch to a different DA layer to bring this down like ASAP? And that's how this whole like Celestia conversation began. It was like very immediate like business need for us.
Yeah. I mean, the savings are absolutely awesome and just gives a better experience for the users. And a lot of people are pretty excited about just kind of everything that's been happening with Aevo. Obviously, you guys had the AUSD as well, kind of like the yield-bearing collateral or just kind of savings in your account, which I think coming from DeFi in 2020 was something that a lot of people were excited about. So tons of interesting primitives. Of course, you guys have been running this kind of like points retroactive reward campaign. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation there now.
yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, like what's on the roadmap for Aevo? What's the focus going forward post integration with Celestia? Now you guys have got your costs down, and what can the community expect?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, like we started out being like an options focused exchange, and then we kind of grew our sort of vision to become like the everything exchange. So in Q4 of last year, like we were really focused on growing our perps. And our perps volume has been, it used to be just like a small part of our total volume, but now like perps makes up like 90% of our total volume. So that has grown like crazy. I think we've been like really aggressive in listing a lot of new and interesting markets, and that has really drawn users in. So yeah, I think in this quarter, like one of the big projects that we are working on is just continuing our growth. And we are really focused on like growing the number of users on the platform, making liquidity better, and just sort of actually running like a proper incentives program for the first time. So, I think part of like our, when we sort of pivoted from Ribbon to Aevo, we also decided to do this token rebrand. So Ribbon token holders would convert to this like new token called the Aevo token 1-to-1. And that's slated to happen pretty soon. So yeah, I think once we do this rebrand, we're also going to launch a big-ish incentive program that will sort of reward people who trade on the platform. So I think that will supercharge our growth. And I mean, people love tokens, so I think that'll be definitely something that people look forward to.
I hope there's an allocation for degens who've gotten liquidated. Only one way to bring them back home, baby. Bring them home.
Yeah, like interestingly, some of these like online casinos, like if you lose your entire sort of account balance, like they'll sort of incentivize you to come back by like saying, hey, we're gonna like give you,
yeah.
They'll like inject money to your account and bring you back and hope you top up again. So that could be like an interesting thing we employ as well.
Yeah, we'll see. Would be for all the long lost degens out there, and of course the Celestia community is ever growing. It's the stake TIA has become like the 3-3 of this cycle. People are saying, and I imagine as more DA layers launch, there'll be a bit more competition and things. But for now, Celestia's kind of got a stronghold on that. So I expect that 3-3 meme to kind of continue.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure, like the DA space is going to become really competitive in the next few months. There are all these like DA layers, including like Eigen DA and even like Ethereum's native DA. So yeah, we'll see how the market fragments. But I think for now, like Celestia is like a monopoly in the DA world, and like their first to market is like a stable product is great. But yeah, very curious to see how this plays out in the next few months as well.
And the integration with Celestia has lowered the data publishing costs tremendously and allowed you to recoup a lot of those costs as revenue now.
Yep.
And that's a benefit of this Celestia integration. What additional benefits have you seen as a result of going this app chain route?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, like saving 6 figures a month is like one of the major ones. Basically, it improves like the profitability of the exchange by quite a bit. I think some of the stuff that we haven't tried yet, but we are very interested in trying is like right now there's some sort of parameters that you can adjust in the rollup. So for example, like the block size, the block time, stuff like that. But if you have like 1 second blocks and you make the blocks really big, you're actually posting a ton of data to Ethereum. So it's really, really expensive to do. But if you sort of drive that cost down by like 90+%, like maybe that actually becomes like a viable thing that you could do. So some of the new things we are looking at is just like, what happens if we really just tune up the rollup parameters like crazy, and like what interesting things could happen? How quick can you actually create blocks? or how much data can you basically stuff into these blocks. There's one interesting thing we're looking at now, but yeah, it's still very much experimental. So I think for sure, like the first and major thing is, we save like over $1 million or $2 million a year. That's like the major one. Secondary is we have all this like potential improvements in like performance and just like tuning up a bunch of parameters as well.
Very cool. Would tuning up some of those parameters, like quicker blocks, would that allow you to unlock new scale and new strategies that are available for the users, or even recoup even more revenue as a result of publishing blocks more frequently?
It would, I think for users' perspective, it would feel pretty much the same. But yeah, some of the stuff we are exploring some stuff in the backend now where, like what if we could, I think one big piece of like alpha that we are working on this year is we are going to try and transition from just being this one single app on our own chain to having multiple apps on the chain. And yeah, I do think that's sort of where bigger blocks and faster block times would really be felt by the user.
So if you stake Aevo, you get fun times in the future.
That's potentially a direction we could go down. I think. I love
Penguin.
I love the Celestia, like you stake Celestia and you get all these airdrops. I really love that meme. So yeah, maybe we could that could be like a model that Aevo follows as well.
What other plans for the token will be integrated to the platform? Like obviously there's models like Binance Coin where you get fee rebate. There's models like GMX and things where you stake and you can earn fees in ETH, and then you've got like GLP and obviously other perp dexes have kind of vaults where you can copy trade and also trade against. What are some of the liquidity models that you have in mind?
Yeah, so I think in terms of like the token, we're not gonna do something super crazy. I think some of these models are like really effective. So I think the model that we currently like is the sort of Binance style model where you get fee discounts and there's some sort of like value that's given back to token holders. So on that front, we're still sort of working on it, but the model that we kind of like now is the maker style buyback and LP value accrual model. So that's likely what we're going to employ as well for the token.
Fantastic. Well, as we kind of wrap up, the community wanted to know about different options for different assets, different token pairs, and just kind of like a general direction that perps and options are heading. So maybe close us off with some thoughts on that as well as the upcoming events.
Yeah, I think right now, I think like the option users and the perp users are quite different, like in terms of like what kind of traders they are. Perps are more like the degen altcoin traders. Options are more of like the high IQ, like mathematical guys generally. So I would say, yeah, there's been a pretty clean split between the types of users we have. But we are like cooking up some new ideas where we basically combine both products. So one sort of idea that we've been thinking about is actually like another exchange has done this. Bybit actually did this, which is called like protected perps. So for example, you long some BTC. There's this sort of like button on that says like, oh, do you want like downside protection in case your trade goes really bad? And it's like a really simple UI. You click yes or no. But under the hood, it just like buys a put option for you or something like that. And it kind of like bundles both an option and a perp into one thing. So that's the kind of thing which we think is really interesting, and we don't think any other DEX in DeFi has the capability of doing. So we are thinking along those lines. Yeah, we are also quite inspired by some of the retail funded liquidity models. So stuff like GMX, GLP, Hyperliquid obviously has a very similar HLP model. And we are also working on our own sort of like retail funded LP model. in the option side, which is pretty interesting as well. So we'll be sort of launching that hopefully within the next month or two. So yeah, those are some of the exciting things to look forward to. I think the main one is really token rebrand plus incentives. I think those would basically drive our user growth and sort of adoption by a lot. So yeah, really focus on that right now.
Let's go, Julian. Thank you so much for coming on, brother. It's been a pleasure and excited to see some of these updates come to fruition, man.
Cool. Thanks, man.